Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely dismantle everything you thought you knew about ADHD, and we're going to rebuild it from the ground up using neuroscience. If you've ever felt totally misunderstood, or, if you know someone who navigates the world with ADHD, well, prepare to see things in a whole new light. We are moving right past the basic labels today and looking directly into the mechanics of the mind. So, let's dive right in.
Section 1. The Great Concentration Myth. Rethinking Attention.
Okay, let's address the biggest misconception right out of the gate, the name itself. The letters ADHD carry a whole lot of baggage, and honestly, most of it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of how attention actually works. We generally assume ADHD means you just can't concentrate, but the neurological reality, it's completely different. ADHD is a problem directing attention. So the crucial point here is that ADHD isn't a lack of attention at all. It's actually a relentless flood of attention. People with ADHD don't have an empty tank of focus, they have an overflowing tank. And the daily struggle is simply trying to steer that massive, overwhelming flow of focus in the exact right direction when it matters most.
Section 2. The conductor of your brain. The missing conductor.
To truly understand why this flood of attention happens and why it is so incredibly hard to steer, we need to picture the human brain as a grand, complex symphony orchestra. In the ADHD brain, all the instruments are playing at once for your attention. Thoughts, sounds, feelings, ideas, they all intrude at the exact same time. Imagine being in a concert hall where the strings, the brass, the woodwinds, and the percussion are all just playing their own separate songs at maximum volume, simultaneously. Without a strong central conductor standing at the podium to point and say, hey, you play now and you quiet down, every single thought and sound fights for the spotlight. And processing that overwhelming wall of noise, it takes a massive amount of conscious energy.
Now, the specific biological conductor we're talking about is the prefrontal cortex. This is the area right at the front of your brain that acts as the manager. It helps us plan, make choices, slow down our impulses, keep an overview of things, and hold our attention. In an ADHD brain, this neurobiological conductor doesn't actually work poorly. It just works less efficiently and far less consistently. It's kind of as if the conductor is incredibly talented but occasionally just lets go of the steering wheel. Sometimes the orchestra plays in perfect harmony, and other times, it's absolute chaos.
Section 3. Dopamine, the priority chemical.
To see how this missing conductor effect really builds up, we have to look at the vital fuel that actually powers our brain's conductor, dopamine. Now, most people think dopamine is strictly a reward chemical, the thing that just makes you feel good after eating a piece of chocolate or winning a game. But its real, absolutely critical job is to act as a motivation and priority signal. It literally taps your brain on the shoulder and says, hey, this is important. Start doing this right now. Send energy here.
Because dopamine is organized differently in an ADHD brain, low-reward chores literally feel painfully uninteresting. Picture someone hyper-focusing on a video game or a creative project for hours on end, entirely absorbed. Now picture that exact same person struggling for 5 minutes just to empty the dishwasher. This confusing daily paradox isn't because someone is lazy or defiant, not at all. It's because the brain fundamentally lacks that chemical priority signal. The brain literally isn't getting the memo that the dishwasher matters enough to even start.
Section 4. The executive functions. The management skills.
This neurological reality brings us to a really critical classification. This is exactly why ADHD is officially viewed in the medical community as a disorder of executive functions, which are essentially your brain's self-management tools. We're talking about starting a task, stopping when needed, switching activities, prioritizing, regulating emotions, remembering your intentions. Just take a second to grasp how many complex background processes the ADHD brain has to manually override and manage every single minute of the day. Things that just happen automatically for a neurotypical person require intense, conscious manual labor for someone with ADHD.
And right here is where we hit a massive stumbling block in how society views productivity. Normally, we see the neurotypical expectation. Motivation leads to action. In most neurotypical brains, we expect to feel a spark, a sense of motivation or desire first, which then naturally leads us to take action and get the job done.
But here's the massive paradigm shift you absolutely need to internalize. The ADHD reality is completely flipped. Action leads to motivation. In an ADHD brain, the motivation usually only arrives after the action has already begun. The spark doesn't come before the fire. It comes from the friction of moving. This makes the very act of starting the absolute hardest hurdle of all.
This reversal is exactly why simple hacks actually work absolute wonders. Using a timer, putting on some music, defining one clear first step, or just starting alongside someone else. These aren't just cute productivity tips. They are literal neurological jump starts. They provide that external push to spark the action, which then finally ignites that delayed motivation. It's not about lacking independence. It's just about giving the brain the exact right nudge it needs to get into gear.
Section 5. Emotions and mental energy. The invisible toll.
But, getting tasks done is really only half the story. Beyond the to-do list, we absolutely have to talk about the immense emotional and energetic toll this operating system takes behind the scenes. A weaker brake system in the brain means emotions hit faster and are experienced much more intensely. Because that braking system in the prefrontal cortex is less consistent, feelings of joy and passion can be absolutely massive and beautiful. But on the flip side, frustration, disappointment, and the feeling of rejection hit with the exact same unbraked intensity. It can feel like your emotions completely take over, even when you logically know you want to react differently.
Which brings us to mental energy. Starting a new task can literally feel like starting a heavy engine on a freezing cold winter morning. It is deeply, deeply exhausting to constantly switch gears. Think about it. If you're hyper-focused, stopping is painful. If you're stopped, starting is grueling. It's not a lack of willpower. It's literally just a brain having to work twice as hard, burning twice as much mental fuel to achieve the exact same everyday results as everyone else.
Section 6. A different operating system. Reframing the mind.
So let's bring all of this neurobiology together to completely reframe our understanding of what this means for daily life, and let's definitively end these destructive stereotypes right now. ADHD is absolutely not a lack of intelligence, it is not a lack of motivation, and it is certainly not a lack of perseverance. In fact, people with ADHD are often some of the most persevering individuals out there, precisely because they have to push through these invisible neurological barriers every single day just to function in a world that wasn't built for them.
Instead, we really need to view it like this. ADHD is simply a brain that regulates information, motivation, attention, and emotions differently. That's it. It is not a broken system, it's just a completely different operating system. Just like a Mac and a PC, one isn't inherently broken just because it can't run the other software, right? It just requires a different user manual to thrive.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question. Now that you understand the true mechanics of this operating system, how will you change the way you support yourself, or your friends, or your colleagues? Because once you truly understand the science behind the struggle, empathy just becomes natural. The judgment fades away, and the process of finding real, practical solutions can finally begin. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it sparks a completely new level of understanding for the beautiful, complex ADHD brain.